Mom furiously told me. You're not even part of this family anymore. After I refused to babysit. I said, okay, then don't expect me to pay off your mortgage. That evening, I was halfway through packing for the first real weekend away I'd had in months. A cabin rental 2 hours out, nothing fancy, just quiet, nature, and time with Maddie, my girlfriend, when my phone buzzed. It was Mom. Hey, sweetie. Emily's stuck at work and her daycare cancelled. Can you come watch the kids for the weekend? Just this once? Just this once. That was always the phrase, wasn't it? Just this once. Like I hadn't missed birthdays, dates, or even business trips before because something went wrong on their end and I was expected to fix it. Emily was my younger sister. 2 kids, no husband, and a job that never respected her hours. I'd been babysitting her children on and off since the youngest was still in diapers. I took a breath. Sorry, Mom. I already made plans. Maddie and I booked a cabin months ago. There was a pause. Seriously? She said, like I had just announced I was moving to Mars. I'm not canceling. I need this. Another pause, then her voice turned cold. Sharp. Familiar. You're not even part of this family anymore, are you? I blinked. I should have seen it coming. But it still hit like a punch to the chest. I laughed. Not from humor, but disbelief. Okay, then don't expect me to pay off your mortgage. Silence. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She just hung up. I stood there for a moment, heart racing, that line still hanging in the air like smoke. And then I walked over to my laptop. Because I was done. I sat down in the dim light of my apartment, the soft whir of the fridge the only sound in the room. Maddie was still out grabbing coffee for the road, and I had maybe 20 minutes before she'd be back. 20 minutes to change the direction of an entire lifetime. I opened my banking app first. It took 3 seconds to find the autopay link to my mom's mortgage, an account I had been feeding like clockwork every first of the month since I started making decent money in tech. Nobody ever thanked me. Not once. Cancelled. Next was the tuition support account for Ethan, my younger brother. He was in college, studying philosophy or maybe marketing. He changed majors so often I couldn't keep track. I'd been quietly covering his books and housing gap fees. Maddie didn't even know. That got cancelled, too. Then came the big one, the emergency credit card. The one only I had access to. The one I thought they didn't know about, but somehow, someone had been using it. Gas station charges near Emily's house. Uber rides. Late-night food delivery. Her, no doubt. I locked the card, called to report misuse, and requested a new one. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote a message to the family group chat. Family? Since I've apparently been not part of this family for a while now, consider this my formal confirmation. I've cancelled all financial contributions as of tonight. That includes mortgage payments for Mom's house, Ethan's tuition support, the emergency card that's been used without permission. Attached are screenshots of every transaction over the past 2 years, totaling $47,580.33. I didn't do it for thanks, I never got any anyway, but I'm done being your backup plan. Good luck. Jack. And I hit send. A minute later, Maddie walked in carrying 2 lattes and smiling. Ready to go? I looked at her and nodded. More than ever. What I didn't tell her right then was that this weekend wasn't just a vacation, it was the start of something bigger. Because the family I'd spent my whole life sacrificing for had finally said the words I needed to hear, "You don't belong here." And I believed them. The first reply came 6 minutes after I hit send. It was from Emily. What the hell is this, Jack? Are you serious right now? You can't just cut us off like that. What am I supposed to do with the kids? No apology. No hint of accountability. Just panic laced with entitlement. A minute later, Ethan chimed in. Dude, what the hell? I have finals coming up. I need that money for books. Why would you do this now? Now. As if I had picked the most inconvenient time to stop bleeding for them. Then came Mom. Long wall of text. Caps lock, typos, run-on sentences like she couldn't get the words out fast enough. How dare you do this to us, Jack? After everything we've done for you. You think you're better than us just because you have money? I can't believe you would betray your own family. And finally, exactly 11 minutes later, she called. I didn't answer. I was watching the trees blur by out the car window as Maddie drove us toward the cabin. Her hand resting on the gearshift, occasionally brushing mine. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. She knew something had shifted. When I didn't answer, they went nuclear. Emily sent a voice note. Screaming. Literal screaming. I have no one else, Jack. You know that. You can't just leave me hanging like this with 2 kids and no backup plan. I swear to God, if I lose this apartment, it's on you. Ethan followed up with a meme. A meme. A guy lighting a bridge on fire with the caption, "When you ruin your family just because you're having a tantrum." Mom tried a new angle by evening. A guilt sandwich, 2 parts manipulation, 1 part nostalgia. Remember when I stayed up with you all night when you had pneumonia in 6th grade? Or when I let you stay out late for that robotics competition? I'm your mother, Jack. Families fight, but they don't abandon each other. Please call me. I stared at the message for a long time. That was the thing. I did remember those moments. But I also remembered being 13 and heating up ramen for my siblings while she cried herself to sleep on the couch. I remembered putting off a college internship to stay home when Dad left. I remembered missing out on so many normal things because I was too busy raising a family that never once turned around and raised me back. I put the phone down. That night, Maddie and I sat on the cabin's porch under a thick blanket, sipping wine and listening to the wind rustle through the trees. I hadn't told her everything yet, but she sensed it. You okay? She asked gently. I stared into the darkness and said, I think I just quit my family. She didn't flinch. Just nodded and said, It's about time. By Sunday morning, my phone had 23 unread messages, 3 missed calls from a blocked number I knew was Mom using someone else's phone, and 1 email, from Ethan, of all people. It was 2 lines long. Hey. I get that you're upset. Can we talk? I almost replied. Almost. But I didn't. Because that's how it always started, with a soft opening, just enough remorse to get me back on the hook, then slowly, the guilt and the need would pour in. I knew the rhythm by heart. I'd played that song too many times. Instead, I scrolled down to the group chat. I hadn't opened it since Friday night. The tone had changed. Panic had shifted into self-preservation. Emily's messages read like legal notices now. Just for the record, I didn't use that card without permission. You said it was for emergencies. You never specified what kind. Then. Also, I think it's pretty disgusting that you would leave your nephews out in the cold like this. They didn't do anything to you. Mom's messages had taken a different shape. Less shouting, more simmering. This family is falling apart, Jack. And it's your fault. Followed by, I talked to the bank. They said they can't reverse the cancellation without you. Please don't do this. Just talk to me. It was almost impressive, the way they rewrote the past in real time. How quickly my decision to step away from being used became their story of betrayal. How every favor I had done, every dollar I had handed over, was erased the moment I said no. Around noon, Emily called again. This time I picked up. Jack, she snapped before I even said hello. You made your point. Okay? So now what? What do you mean? I mean, what do you want? She said. A thank you? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. Is that what you wanted to hear? I exhaled. You're not sorry. There was silence. You're mad you lost control, I said. You're not sorry about what you did. You're sorry you don't have access to me anymore. More silence. Then she said, bitter and low, You're really going to just let us suffer? I sat back in the cabin chair, Maddie just inside the door reading. The fire crackling. The air smelled like pine and wood smoke. Yes, I said. I am. And I hung up. They say people show their true colors when the money runs out. I learned they show even more when the person funding the money finally stops picking up the phone. By Tuesday morning, the messages had dried up, not because the chaos ended, but because they were too busy scrambling to do damage control. I only knew that because Maddie nudged my shoulder over coffee and said, "You might want to see this." It was a Facebook post from Emily. Set to public. Some people pretend to care about family but disappear the second they're needed. Imagine choosing money over your own blood. Sad? It had 3 likes. One from a college friend she hadn't spoken to in years, one from my mother, and one from an account I didn't recognize but suspected was a backup profile of Ethan's. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. But that was just the start. That afternoon, I got a call from my old friend Tyler, who lived 2 streets down from my mom's place. "Hey man, sorry if this is out of line, but is everything okay with your folks?" "What do you mean?" "Your mom's out front yelling at the mortgage guy." I blinked. "What?" "Yeah. Like red in the face yelling. Something about how it's illegal to change payments without notice and how you put her in this situation. She's scaring the mailman." I sighed, pressing my fingers to my temple. "Thanks for the heads up." By nightfall, I had 4 missed calls from the mortgage company's automated line and 1 email from the account manager that I'd originally set things up with. "Hello, Jack. I'm reaching out as a courtesy. We've received multiple contacts from your listed co-occupant attempting to reinstate payment terms on the account you terminated. As per policy, no changes can be made unless you authorize them. Please confirm whether you'd like us to proceed with closing the account." I clicked confirm closure. I didn't tell Maddie right away. She looked so peaceful on the couch that night, feet tucked under her, reading with one hand and absent-mindedly sipping wine with the other. I realized, watching her, how long it had been since I had someone in my life who didn't need me, just wanted me around. But the next night? That's when Ethan showed up. I hadn't seen him in person in nearly a year. He looked thinner. Not unhealthy, just smaller than I remembered. Maybe it was the way he stood there, not even trying to look angry, just worn out. "I didn't know where else to go," he said. "Mom's freaking out. Emily's blaming me. I didn't even know you were paying all that stuff until the group chat." I let him in. We sat in silence for a while before he said, "Why didn't you tell us?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Because you wouldn't have heard me. None of you ever did." He nodded slowly, rubbing his eyes. "I was a kid when it all started. I didn't get it. But I'm not a kid anymore. That much was true. I don't know how to fix it," he added. "You don't," I said. "That's the thing. You don't fix it. You just stop expecting someone else to carry you." He didn't argue. He just sat there, quiet and tired. And for the first time, I didn't feel resentment toward him. Pity, maybe. But not resentment. She showed up at my apartment 2 days later. No warning. No knock. Just the doorbell ringing like it had something to prove. I was in the middle of debugging a code issue when Maddie peeked through the peephole, turned to me and said, "It's your mom." I didn't move. "Is she alone?" Maddie looked again. "Yeah. No Emily. No Ethan." I walked to the door slowly, each step heavier than the last. When I opened it, Mom was already halfway through rehearsing her expression. It was a look she wore often, part wounded matriarch, part misunderstood hero. "Can we talk?" she said, voice softer than I remembered. I stepped aside without a word. Not because I wanted her in, but because part of me wanted to see what version of her would show up today. She sat on the edge of the couch, didn't take off her coat. "I didn't come here to fight," she began, smoothing her hands over her knees. "I came to try to understand." I leaned against the wall. "What is it you don't understand? That I'm tired? That I spent 10 years being treated like a piggy bank with a pulse?" She winced. "Noted. I know we weren't fair to you," she said carefully. "But we didn't know how much you were doing. You never said anything." My laugh was dry. "Oh, so that makes it better? You never asked, Mom. You just expected." She blinked, eyes glistening, not full tears, but the kind she always used when she was trying to trigger guilt. She was good at that. Olympic level. "I'm your mother," she said. "I raised you. You wouldn't be where you are if not for me." "There it is," I said. "What?" "The you owe me speech." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not paying your mortgage. I'm not funding your house. I'm not a son you can withdraw from like an ATM and then berate when the balance runs low." She stood up then, shoulders squared. "So that's it? You're done with us?" "I'm done being used." She turned toward the door, hand on the knob, then paused. "You'll regret this one day." "No," I said. "I'll regret not doing it sooner." And she left. Not a slam, not a scream. Just the quiet click of a door finally closing. Maddie walked over and slipped her hand into mine. "You okay?" "I think I am," I said. And this time, I meant it. The silence that followed was louder than anything they'd ever shouted at me. No more messages. No more voicemails. No more sudden text asking for a small favor, or just a little help this month. It was like someone had pulled the plug on the part of my life that had always been on call, always responsible, always needed, but never wanted. It should have felt peaceful. And it did, eventually. But first, it felt like grief. I don't think people talk enough about that part. The grief that comes with finally enforcing a boundary. It's not just the loss of a relationship, it's the loss of the fantasy that maybe, someday, they'll change. That they'll wake up, realize what you did for them, and say, "Thank you? I see you now." That fantasy? I buried it that week. Maddie noticed. She didn't push. She just started cooking more. Making space for quiet. Letting me feel it all without forcing anything to the surface. Sometimes we'd go whole evenings just listening to music and watching the city lights flicker out the window, both of us knowing something had shifted but not needing to name it yet. One night, maybe a week after Mom's visit, I found myself opening up the spreadsheet I'd used to track everything I paid over the last 5 years. Mortgage payments. Tuition boosts. Grocery transfers. Last-minute daycare bailouts. Untracked, emergency, Venmos to Emily. A Christmas gift to Ethan that turned out to be just rent money in disguise. The total came to $61,227.09. That's what it had cost to keep my place in a family that never saw me as anything more than a resource. I stared at the number. Then I deleted the file. Not out of bitterness, but because I no longer needed it as proof. They weren't going to pay me back. Not with money. Not with apologies. And I was done chasing value where there wasn't any to begin with. That was the night I finally let go, not with anger, but with peace. And when I laid down next to Maddie and she tucked herself against my side, I realized I didn't feel hollow anymore. I felt whole. It was nearly 2 weeks of radio silence before they cracked. I was halfway through a Teams Zoom call when my personal phone, on silent, lit up with a notification. "Mom added you to a new group chat, family emergency." That name alone made me sigh. After work, curiosity got the better of me. I opened the thread expecting chaos. And they delivered. Emily had kicked it off with a voice message, never a good sign. "Okay, Jack. This isn't funny anymore. Mom is behind on the mortgage, and I'm 2 days away from getting an eviction notice. Ethan's talking about dropping out. Are you seriously just going to sit there and let this happen?" "Let it happen." Mom followed up seconds later with a written wall of text, classic guilt and glory combo. "I know you're angry, but you have no idea how hard this is on me. I'm on the verge of losing everything. I've raised 3 children. I've sacrificed so much for this family. Please, just help us fix this. Once. Just this once." "Once?" Ethan finally chimed in. "Look, I know I haven't exactly earned it, but you helping us out isn't just for us. It's for you too. You don't want this on your conscience." There it was. The pivot. When begging didn't work, they reached for guilt. And when guilt didn't work, that's when the mask slipped. Emily again. Honestly, if you're going to act like a stranger, don't be surprised when we treat you like one. Don't expect invites. Don't expect kindness. You've made yourself very clear. I didn't respond. Not right away. Instead, I waited. Not for them to calm down, but for myself to. Because I knew this moment, too. It was the moment they realized their grip had slipped. That their safety net had been cut, and the fall was coming faster than they thought. So I typed, "I see you're still confusing support with servitude. I didn't cut you off to be cruel. I did it because you've built your lives around taking from me without ever giving back. I'm not cold, I'm just finally warm enough to stop freezing for all of you." I send it. Silence. No replies. Not for hours. Not the next day either. They'd made their last move, and it hadn't worked. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel shaken by it. I felt grounded. They were falling apart without me. But I wasn't falling with them. 3 days passed. No texts. No voicemails. Not a word from anyone. The calm was eerie, like that tight, quiet air before a storm breaks. I'd lived long enough under the weight of their moods to recognize the signs. This wasn't resolution. This was recalculation. And sure enough, on the 4th day, I got a call, not from Mom, not from Emily, not even from Ethan. It was from my cousin, Rachel. We weren't close. In fact, the last time we'd really spoken, we were both in high school, and she was crying in my room after one of her mom's explosive rants. But she always remembered my birthday, and when her texts came, they felt genuine. So when she called, I answered. "Hey, Jack," she said, hesitating. "I'm not calling to take sides. I just thought you should know something." My stomach tensed. "Okay. They've started calling around," she said. "Your mom, Emily. They're reaching out to extended family, saying you've abandoned them, left them in a financial crisis. I even heard Aunt Denise talking about a GoFundMe." I closed my eyes. "Wow. They're painting you as some kind of villain," Rachel said gently. "Like you turned your back on them with no warning. But I saw that screenshot you posted in the group chat, the one showing all the payments. I know the truth. And I just wanted to say, you don't owe anyone anything." That did something to me. Not the part where she was on my side, but the part where she saw it. The truth of it. The years behind the curtain. The exhaustion. The constant, quiet bleeding. "Thanks," I said and meant it. But Rachel wasn't done. "They're not just hurt, Jack. They're humiliated. Not because you stopped helping, but because now everyone knows they needed you. And they didn't even realize how much until you stopped." That night, I logged into Facebook. The GoFundMe existed. Titled, "Emergency Support for a Struggling Family." Written by Emily, with a tearjerker of a description. Single mother. Aging parent. Brother with tuition needs. Hardworking family brought to the brink by an unexpected hardship. No mention of me. Of course. They'd scrubbed me from the narrative like a bad edit. The villain off-screen. But the real twist? They'd only raised $140 in 2 days. And most of that came from the same 3 people who liked Emily's earlier post. It was the first time I realized. Without me, they had nothing to lean on. And now the world wasn't rushing in to save them. The audience they thought would rally behind them wasn't clapping. And for once, they had to sit in it. That was the turning point. It came not with a bang, but a whisper. A message from Mom. Just one sentence. "We won't bother you anymore." No apologies. No explanations. Just resignation. That was the moment I knew I was free. Not because they gave up, because I finally stopped hoping they'd change. That night, Maddie and I stood on the balcony, watching the city glow beneath us. She reached for my hand without a word. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. Just my own. And it was enough.